Hello everybody, we are back for, I believe this is now round 14 of the SRL Championship. I did somewhere in there get the round numbers wrong in my videos. I forget exactly which race we missed. I know I brought it up, but in the title of the videos, I got the numbers wrong. But nonetheless, we are here. This is now round 14 at Belgium. And after the last video you saw, which would have been the Hungarian Grand Prix, I forgot to mention that that win actually gave us the championship lead back, which is good for obvious reasons. So yeah, finally got our championship lead back, even though we've been having, by all metrics, like a dominant season. Haven't been beaten on pace yet this year. And I'm looking to keep that going here at Belgium, a track I know all too well because I just got done doing a 24-hour GT3 event on Gran Turismo 7 on it. So I've seen this track many a times, and yeah, as a track in the F1 game, I love the track in real life. It's an iconic track. What bad can you say about Spa? Great races on it as well. But in the game, it's very slipstreamy. It's an easy track, and it's a track that's very easy to follow because there's so much time at full throttle. So, yeah, it's kind of the same challenges that you would see at like in Italy or like Saudi Arabia, or even Britain, but not as egregious as Britain. No track is egregious as Britain. But yeah, kind of the same thing, like Diet Britain, not as easy to follow, but still very slipstreamy. But yeah, nonetheless, you get what I'm saying. So it's going to be harder to separate yourself if you're only a couple tenths faster a lap. That person's still going to be able to keep right up with you. So it is irritating, makes it hard to separate yourself from the pack, but it is what it is. So I really want to make sure I qualify good. I can get out in front, stay out in front early, and kind of dictate the pace of the race and make people race to my level. I do have pole going into our final qualifying runs, but I know that there was plenty of room for improvement on my run. So here we go. Clipping the apex nicely, using the curb on the exit. That curb is pretty flat and pretty easy going when it comes to getting the throttle down on it. Up El Rouge, you want to use the least amount of steering angle possible, not hitting the inside curb on the right-hander because that cuts off just a little bit of speed. Make as straight of a line as possible, coming down this straight. And here you want to be careful because the curbs are raised. It can unsettle the car if you carry too much speed over them, but you gotta get that time anywhere you can. And you see a car go off there. I turn in a little early here, but the curb doesn't really slow me down, and I got my braking point pretty accurate, so not much time lost there at all. Like maybe a couple hundredths, something very minor. Carry a lot of speed through this fast left-hander, get back to full throttle extremely early, cut back to the left, make the track as short as possible because you don't scrub off as much speed while turning at full throttle as you do in real life. You want to be careful using the inside curb of that left-hander there, can unsettle the car. Taking curb there, it looks rough and it feels rough on the controller or wheel because it's bumpy, but it is pretty stable all things considered because you're not going fast enough for that little bit of a bump to unsettle the car, especially with kind of the soft springs you usually run. Soft suspension, I'm sorry, on a track like this. Hold R2, very important. Get the braking right here. You kind of want to turn in a little bit late because the curb kind of tightens at the end of it. Same thing with the second part of the corner. It's kind of weird timing. You turn in later than you would think so for those corners. But we get into the 142s with a 142.8. Get pole position by, it looks like about 4/10 of a second. Wakanda, the Alpine, aka Free at Belay, still on the track though, so we will be keeping an eye on him as he has gotten a couple pole positions from us already this season. And I don't know why I haven't switched to him or what I'm doing. Yeah, he crosses the line at a 143.1 and a little over 3/10 of a second advantage for us. And I feel like that was a very good lap I did, all things considered. Other than turning in a little too early on that long kind of falling away downhill right-hander. I lost a couple hundredths there. But other than that, I feel like I nailed the lap pretty well. Got into the 140, the 142s, which was my goal. And I did it by almost 2/10, getting down to the low 0.8s. So yeah, I was very happy with that lap. Of course, happy for pole position. Qualifying position doesn't matter as much on this track in terms of end race result, because like I said, it's a very easy track to follow, very easy track to overtake on. But it does help a lot on the start to hold your position, because you got such a short run into turn 1, and if you lead out of that, you can get much better traction by taking the optimal line than the person behind you, or the people in the pack that have to compromise their line through that corner, and that affects you all the way down the straight, which means basically you can get to the top speed that you need to get to stay ahead of someone while using less ERS, which then you can use that ERS in the later parts of the lap or even the beginning of the second lap, so you can kind of hold the position early. So if an early safety car comes out, which does happen often on this track, you can basically, what the gist thing I'm getting to is, you can, I'm going into great detail here, but it's easy to hold your position on the first couple laps from the front of the grid, even though this is such a slipstreamy track. But like I said, down the line, long term, it is pretty easy for the guy following behind. But, you know, if we can make it happen, that we get out of the DRS of the car behind, that will be massive. I don't think 0.3 of a second advantage is going to be enough to do so. I don't even think half a second advantage a lap is enough to do so. But we will do our best nonetheless. Just keep cool. We got the championship lead. Race our own race. Same strategy for the same reason. I know exactly how much fuel I'm putting into the car because I pay attention to that during testing, so I don't have too much fuel in the car. But I never underfuel, because the amount of time you lose for having another lap of fuel in the car is way less than you think it is. Like, we were literally saying, like, if I put an entire lap of fuel extra in the car and did the entire race, like, the difference is literally like a couple tenths of a second across the entire race. So yeah, we're talking about very small margins, but every little margin every little margin matters. Nonetheless, we're going to skip the formation lap here and get to the race. We skip forward to the start of the race now, waiting for the lights to go out, get a decent launch off of the line, even though we're on the hard tires. And like I said, this short run into turn 1, free yap goes a little bit wide to try to square up the corner, but we're just going to take the optimal line, power down early, use the ERS early to get up to the speed, because you don't really scrub off much speed at all going up El Rouge. Maybe just a touch of ERS here to ensure that we get back to our speed and keep the advantage that we have. And yeah, a good solid start there. Held our lead on lap 1. Early safety car here, like I've said, is very possible and very likely. And yeah, so far so good. We got through the first challenge of the race, which is the safety car. Now on the restart, don't really got to worry about someone getting better traction than me off the start, because obviously it will be a rolling start. And I can try to employ one of my tricks, which is AKA just being unpredictable on when I launch. I don't think that's something I've really touched on so far, but in my league racing, I am prepared. I have multiple ways that I will restart on any given track. You know, I'm prepared to start early, I'm prepared to start late, I'm prepared to start straight out of warming the tires, I'm prepared to have a little bit of a hesitation where I stop warming and then wait like half a second and then go. You know, sometimes I'll even do a restart while looking backwards, so if someone's doing like the on gas, off gas, I wait for the moment they go off and time it that way. I mean, I think having unpredictable restarts is like a really underrated asset in league racing, especially if you're someone that's racing for a championship, so you're going to be towards the front of the pack a lot. Being able to consistently hold your lead on that first lap after a restart, just because you're unpredictable with your launch, is, like I said, a really underrated asset, especially if you have a late safety car. You only got 2 or 3 laps of green flag racing. You can basically eliminate one of those laps from your opposition to be able to overtake you just by being unpredictable with your launch. Safety car to come in on the end of lap 3 of 22. Not as many laps in this race because it's a much longer track. I don't remember when I restarted at all, just to illustrate my point of unpredictable restarts. I don't even remember it at all. It looks like I launched pretty early here to catch people off guard, because I did a lot of late restarts so far this season. Seems to work pretty well. I respect my slightly chilled tires on the rear. Everyone seemed to have problem keeping temperature in the rear tires. And look at that absolute monstrous gap right off the start, just because we didn't overdo it with our throttle application on the cold hard tires. Excuse me, I'm burping. And we were unpredictable with the restart. And you saw I didn't do anything fancy there. Just swerved a little bit, waited a little bit, swerved a little bit, just went, didn't spin the tires or anything. Got a stupid track extension of Eau Rouge, and yeah, just like that, a little bit of a gap to Free behind. Actually, a decent amount of gap to Free behind. This will actually open up an opportunity maybe for us early on to not have DRS right behind us at all in this race if I can break that 1 second barrier. So I was probably thinking at this time whether I wanted to risk being more aggressive with my ERS usage early on after this restart to see if I can push that 1 second barrier, because if I can get beyond that 1 second barrier, the fact that I don't have as much ERS as maybe the car behind won't really matter if he doesn't have that advantage of the DRS, especially considering that we have about a 3/10 pace advantage over the rest of the field. As we advance now to lap 6, the DRS was activated at the beginning of this lap, and when I look behind, you see there was no one there, which means we are out of DRS of the cars behind. We are firmly in control of this race early on, and now it's about just racing my race, knocking in those consistent laps, not doing anything stupid, trying to be a hero in every single lap and risking spinning out, because you do run low wings on this track. That means the car can be a little bit more slippery around certain corners or when you're getting on the throttle. But I'm practiced leading into all these races. I know what the limit of the car is, and I don't play with the limit, really. You know, I'm erring on the side of caution during the races, just letting my pace do the work for me. Still got 70% battery. If I do see second place close in, just use some battery to stay out of ERS. And yeah, if we don't have another safety car, it looks like we're heading towards another one of our easier wins in this league, which is massive on a track like this, where usually you just have a DRS train up front because it's so hard to break away. I can't emphasize enough how huge this was in the moment to be able to break away from the field outside of the DRS. Nothing would happen for a hot minute, except if you look in the bottom right corner there, you can see that I have yellow floor damage. An issue I did have in my practice leading up to this race is it didn't matter what I did with the setup or how I changed how I drove up Eau Rouge, the car would always bottom out as I go up the hill and give me floor damage, as we do run on simulation standard damage in this league, which I'm not saying I got anything against simulation standard. As a matter of fact, I'm an advocate for simulation, because, you know, at competitive level, and racing's a non-contact sport, I mean, we should race the realistic settings where if you have contact, it's going to be a bad fucking time. You know, make people fear having contact with each other, and that might clean up some of the racing as well. I've been in leagues in the past with simulation, and it did do just that. The amount of incidents actually went way down. And it actually gets rid of the troublemakers that just lose their wing, because now instead of losing their whole wing, they're losing a wheel and they're out of the race, and then they don't have an opportunity to cause issues down the road in the race as well. But I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here to fill time. Like I said, I got nothing wrong with the league settings. As a matter of fact, I like this league settings a lot more than the other league that I race in, which you will see more of in the next couple weeks, as I'll be reeling out a bunch of those videos. And also, unlike that league, this league actually consistently has the correct settings in their lobby, which is something that the other league that I've been racing in, WNR, does less than half the time, to put it nicely. They're very consistent at having the settings wrong, which is a whole other tangent that I can get off into, which I'm not going to do right now. So yeah, a little bit of floor damage to contend with in this race, but the car doesn't feel too bad. Like I said, I've been erring on the side of caution, making sure, okay, how's the car feel? Are we all right? I understand where the limit of the car is, and I'm not playing with it. I have no reason to push too hard. I wasn't the only person in this race having issues with the little bit of floor damage going up Eau Rouge. Cat playing with the clothes hamper, or what was it? The laundry basket. I couldn't come up with the word, and I speak this language. We're pitting at the end of this lap. Don't have to slow down for the pits in this league. Remember that. Stop on your right foot. Don't forget it. Thumbs up in the chat if you recognize that reference. Tires were fine. And yeah, like I was saying, some other people did have issues with the bombing out like I did, but a couple of the front runners behind me, like Freeab and Nicola, did not have that issue. So if there's a late safety car, that might be a little bit of an issue that if I have floor damage and my competition behind me does not. But nonetheless, we're on to our fresh set of mediums. We've made our one and only pit stop. We are in second place to a car that has not pit yet, and we are still looking solid for an easy win in this one. We are now in the lead as the other car had pit. Max Molder is out of the session, and a full safety car has now come out. Oh boy, this is exactly what I didn't want. This is exactly what I was talking about. And now what was going to be an easy win for us is now very much not that. So, yeah, we're definitely going to have to fight for this one now. And, yeah, what can I say? Safety cars always come out when I'm leading. Remember that. If I'm not leading, don't expect a safety car. But if I'm leading, basically just strategize your race, assuming there's going to be a safety car. Safety car coming in. We will have 5 laps to go at the line. Wait, 18, 19, 20, 22. Yeah, 5 laps to go at the line. Unpredictable with our restart again. A little bit of an early restart again. Probably the first time I've done 2 early restarts this season. But they're growing on me. Not going to lie, I usually like to go for the late one because people get impatient. But the early ones have really been working out because people know I do the late restarts, so they're not expecting it as much. Like I said, it's all about doing what they don't expect. It's like the inner fighting game player coming out a little bit. Yeah, still got to contend with this floor damage, but we got some fresh medium tires to work with. We got a little bit of a gap off the jump to Nicola behind, but he's still very much in that 1 second mark. So we still got 5 laps of green flag racing to go, and I'm very worried now at this point. He does not have floor damage. I do. And yeah, that's going to give him a pace advantage, and I might end up losing this race here at the very end. Lap 19 now, we're coming up El Rouge. You can see a little bit of a proximity arrow behind me there for a second. But now, I will probably look behind me at some point. You can see that still well within that 1 second mark, but not right up my chuff. So we've held him off so far for 1 lap. Still a few laps to go yet, but hey, he didn't just fly up and pass us, so we're still putting in some decent times even with this little bit of floor damage that we got. You can see now we got even more floor damage. Now we're at dark yellow floor damage, lap 20. Still about the same gap behind us though, still looking good, but the DRS is going to be activated on the last 2 laps, so still within danger. And I'm just below half battery, but still got some battery in the tank to try to defend. I make a little bit of a slip up there. The car wanted to over-rotate with the floor damage, pushing a tiny bit too hard here. This is where I check the car behind to see if he's gotten any floor damage, which the game tells me he does not. Lap 21 now. DRS has been activated. Coming up El Rouge, keeping the car together. Using some of that ERS, you can see still about the same gap though. He hasn't flown up right behind us. Maybe he's starting to run out of ERS, I don't know. But we only got to hold off for the rest of this lap and 1 more to bring home this win. Final lap of the race, coming out of turn 1. Burning a chunk of ERS, coming up to El Rouge. You don't see the proximity arrows behind. Burning more of the ERS. You can see we've now actually opened up the gap. Our pace was great in this race. Even with our floor damage, we were still able to hold off the opposition. I was very worried when that safety car came out, knowing that Nicola behind did not have floor damage. But yeah, like I said, we had great pace, and we had great ERS management in this last little 5-lap shootout here. Nicola ran out of ERS earlier than I did, so that allowed me to even pull away here in the last lap or so. So now I'm just going to stay error-free for the rest of this lap. And another noteworthy thing that happened in this race is that our teammate and championship rival, Tim Wetnick, crashed out in this race, which means our then, I think, 3-point championship lead is now going to be like a 29-point championship lead, as we will get the 26 points in this race. And that's massive for us. It was so irritating throughout this whole year. I mean, that's something else about this league. Because it's 1 season, of course, of the whole year, if you're having a not great season, it's just salt in the wounds for an entire calendar year. You know, it's dreadful. But yeah, the fact that we haven't been beaten on pace yet on any track, and I just got the championship lead in around 13 is like fucking abysmal. But now, things are turning up Millhouse. He had a crash out. We're winning races. We're not getting fucked over. And maybe now, finally, we can run away with this championship and bring it home. I really want to get this first championship under my belt. And something else I've been noticing, Nicola has been getting faster over the course of the season. The gap between me and him skill-wise has definitely closed up as the season has gone on. He's gotten better at the game. Friabile, aka Wakanda there in the Alpine in 3rd. He's out-qualified me in a couple races. Tim Wetnick was really close to me on pace there in the middle part of the season. even if we do walk away with this championship, that does not mean that this league is turning uninteresting at all. As a matter of fact, I think it's becoming more interesting because you could arguably say that we might have a 4-way championship fight going into the next season. If Aleski likes the game next year, he doesn't really like the game this year, so he hasn't been practicing as much. You know, he might make it a 5-way title fight. Imagine if we're all in different teams too. Things are just looking to get even better in this league. But that doesn't mean I'm not still focused on this season. I take things one race at a time, and I just enjoy my racing as well. Have a lot of fun. And yeah, we pick up the win on this one, extend our championship lead over our teammate. Of course, we are still absolutely mopping the table in the constructors standings. I'll let you guys check out the final standings here. Basically everyone but the front 6 having penalties. And yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Feel free to comment anything you want me to change up how I do these. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.